The unexpected war had started with a signal. A strange message came from deep space. It was short, cold, and clear. Surrender your planet. You are weak. Resistance means death. Earth's leaders thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. Hours later, the sky above Earth changed. Strange clouds formed. Bright lights appeared. And then, the ships came. Huge black alien ships filled the sky like thunder. Their metal was dark and smooth. Their shape looked like flying knives. People screamed. The world panicked. The aliens didn't wait. They attacked. The alien race was called the Zarkon. They were tall, thin, and had silver skin. Their eyes glowed red. They had no emotion, no mercy. They came from a galaxy 300 light-years away. They had crushed 12 planets before Earth. They believed humans would fall easily. But they were wrong. In a military base in northern Canada, a young woman named Captain Elena Ward stood watching the news feed. Her face was calm, but her fists were tight. "They want a war?" she said. "Fine. Let's give them one." Elena was known for her clear thinking under pressure. She wasn't the highest rank, but she was respected. And when the call came, she was ready. She sent a message to her team. "We fight now. No hesitation." The first battle happened over the Pacific Ocean. The Zarkon sent small attack drones. Fast, sharp, deadly. But humans had been preparing, not for aliens, but for each other. Still, Earth's weapons were strong. Stealth jets, plasma cannons, drone fleets, electromagnetic bombs. The first wave of Zarkon drones was destroyed, but more came, and soon, cities started falling. Tokyo, Berlin, São Paulo. Millions were dead. But then something changed. In a quiet village in Africa, a group of Zarkon soldiers entered, ready to destroy. But one old woman stood in their way. She looked up at them. Her face had no fear. She didn't speak their language, but she looked them in the eye, and for the first time, they hesitated. The Zarkon were trained killers, but they were also logical. They studied fear, strength, power. What they saw in the woman's eyes was none of those. It was something worse. Calm defiance. It was the same stare they would see again and again, from farmers, from children, from soldiers. The humans didn't run like the other races had. They fought back. Elena's team led the counterattack in New York. She moved like a ghost, fast, smart, deadly. Her team used EMP traps, street tunnels, and guerrilla tactics. They turned Earth's broken cities into battlefields the Zarkon couldn't understand. And for the first time in years, the Zarkon lost ground. On the Zarkon flagship, Commander Velik stared at the reports. "How is this possible?" he growled. "They are weak, they are divided, they should be dead by now." Another officer replied, "They're not fighting like soldiers." "Then what are they?" The officer looked up, unsure how to answer. Finally, he said, "They're fighting like they have nothing to lose." Back in a dark bunker, Elena recorded a message. It was short, direct. To the invaders, she said, "You thought Earth was soft. You thought humans would fall. You made a mistake. We're not just survivors. We're the storm you never saw coming." She sent it into space. The Zarkon received it. They watched her face. They saw her eyes. And at that moment, they finally felt it. Fear. The rising flame. The sky above Earth was still full of smoke. Cities were broken. Roads were ruined. Millions were gone. But something else was growing too. Hope. After the first few days of chaos, humanity changed. People stopped running. They started building, fighting, planning. From villages to megacities, humans united. The flame of resistance had started, and it was spreading fast. Captain Elena Ward stood on top of a half-broken tower in New York. Her uniform was dirty, her arm was injured, but her eyes were sharp. Behind her, the survivors were gathering, engineers, soldiers, hackers, and even teenagers. "This is not just defense anymore," she said. "It's payback." In a bunker deep under the Alps, human scientists made a discovery. The Zarkon were not gods. They had weaknesses. Their armor was strong, but it hated cold. Their ships were fast, but they couldn't detect stealth below a certain frequency. Humans learned fast, and they adapted faster. The Zarkon commander, Velik, watched the data in disbelief. "They are learning us," he whispered. Another officer said, "They share knowledge instantly. Their networks, they are like one mind." Velik slammed his metal fist on the console. They are still inferior, but deep down even he was starting to doubt. In South America, humans launched their first successful counter-invasion. Not from space, but from the jungle. A group called the Black Ash moved silently through Zarkon-controlled zones. They used Earth's terrain, mud, storms, thick forest as weapons. One Zarkon unit walked into the Amazon. Only one came back, shaking, terrified. He said 3 words: "They are shadows." Back in New York, Elena's team had a mission: take down a Zarkon communication tower. If they destroyed it, they would cut the enemy's control in the area. But it was risky. The tower was guarded by machines, drones, and armored troops. Still, they went in. It was night. Rain poured down. Elena's team used old subway tunnels. Quiet. Hidden. They moved like ghosts. Above them, the Zarkon watched the skies, expecting ships. They never saw the attack coming from below. One by one, the guards fell. No sound. No mercy. Elena planted the bomb under the main console. As she walked out, she looked up at the alien cameras. She raised 2 fingers. Boom. The tower exploded in a bright blue fire. Zarkon units in the area went dark. Earth cheered. In orbit, Felix stared at the destroyed tower. His officers were silent. He turned to them, voice cold. "We underestimated them." One brave officer asked, "Should we retreat?" Velik's eyes glowed red. "No," he said. "We will burn them down." But even as he spoke, his hands shook. Back on Earth, resistance groups were growing fast. People who once feared the skies now carried weapons. Even children helped, carrying supplies, building shelters, warning fighters. They all had the same look in their eyes. Not fear. Not hate. Fire. Elena watched a group of new recruits train in the ruined city square. She saw an old man teaching a teenager how to aim. She saw a nurse helping build a drone. She smiled. Humans were not just fighting to survive now. They were rising. The Zarkon came to Earth, thinking it would be easy. But they didn't understand one thing. When humans are pushed, when they are cornered, they become something else. Not weak, not scared, but something fierce, something unstoppable. The fire was spreading, and it had just begun. The price of pain, the war was no longer new. Earth had changed. The cities were still broken. The skies were still dark. But now, the people were not just surviving. They were fighting back. And every victory came with a cost. A heavy cost. Captain Elena Ward stood at a mass grave. Rows of human bodies lay covered in black cloth. Soldiers, farmers, children. She didn't cry. Not because she wasn't sad, but because there was no time for tears. Beside her, Sergeant Malik said quietly, "They ambushed the convoy. No survivors." Elena nodded. "We need better scouts, better routes." Malik looked at her tired. "We also need more people." Far away in a Zarkon command ship orbiting Earth, Commander Velik watched the battle reports. They were winning in space. Their fleet was strong, but on the ground, the humans were growing stronger every day. Zarkon soldiers feared entering the ruins of human cities. Explosives, traps, snipers. Every corner was a danger. And worse, the humans didn't give up. Even when wounded, even when alone, even when dying. On the coast of what was once Italy, the 13th Human Resistance Unit was trapped. The Zarkon had surrounded the area. There was no escape. The leader, a 19-year-old girl named Sana, called her squad. "We're outnumbered, outgunned," she said, "but not out of time." She held up a small device, an experimental human jammer. "If we take out their signal, maybe someone will hear us." The team ran through broken streets dodging energy blasts. One was hit, another fell into rubble. But Sana reached the tower. She climbed, wounded, bleeding, teeth clenched. At the top, she placed the jammer. A blue pulse spread through the sky. The Zarkon comms went silent. And in that silence, the humans struck back. Elena heard about Sana's mission hours later. Sana didn't make it back, but because of her, 3 cities were saved. Elena looked at the girl's photo on a cracked tablet. Screen. "She gave everything," Malik said. Elena nodded. "That's the price of pain." Later that night, Elena spoke to the survivors. There were only 20 in her group now, but they were strong. They had seen death. They had lost homes, families, friends, and yet they stood. She looked at each face. Some young, some old, all tired, all ready. She raised her voice. "They think pain will break us," she said. "They think death will stop us. They don't know who we are. We are humans. We fight through pain. We rise from loss. We don't fall." In the sky, a Zarkon ship spotted their camp. It fired. The camp exploded. Dust, fire, screams. But when the dust cleared, Elena was still standing. She had pulled 3 people to safety. Her shoulder was burned. Her legs were cut, but her eyes were like steel. She looked at the ship and whispered, "Wrong move." The next day, her team brought down that same ship, with old rockets, with hacked tech, with human rage. They took the broken parts and made new weapons, and left a message on the burning metal. "We don't die easy." Up in space, Commander Velik stared at the photo of Elena. His spy drones had captured her face. "Who is she?" he asked. The officer answered, "They call her the Flame." Velik felt something strange, not fear, but respect. No. Danger. The Zarkon didn't understand it yet, but Earth was not just a planet, it was a storm, and every time they hit it, it burned hotter. The turning point. The war had reached its middle. Not won. Not lost. But now both sides knew. This fight would decide everything. In a hidden base under the Rocky Mountains, Captain Elena Ward studied a glowing map. Red marks showed where Earth had fallen. Blue mark showed where humans still held ground, but there was a yellow mark too, just one. Zarkon Command Hub, Arctic Circle. That hub sent orders to all ground forces. If they lost that, the Zarkon would be blind. Elena turned to her team. "This is our chance," she said. "It won't come again." Sergeant Malik frowned. "It's suicide. That base is crawling with aliens." Elena nodded. "Exactly. They'll never expect it." The mission was simple. Get in. Destroy the command core. Get out, if possible. Elena knew most of them wouldn't come back, but they didn't hesitate. They were human. Meanwhile, up in space, Zarkon Commander Velik was planning a final strike. He had gathered his biggest warship, the Dread Sun, with 30,000 troops on board. His plan? Crush the last cities on Earth in one night. No more delays, no more resistance. He wanted the war finished. But then, the Arctic alarm rang. Zarkon Command Hub was under attack. "What?" Velik roared. "That zone is frozen, impossible to survive." But it wasn't impossible for humans. They had thick suits, old snowmobiles, hidden tunnels, and they had Elena. She and her team moved through the ice storm at night. The cold was painful. The wind felt like knives. Still, they kept going. Elena remembered every name of those walking behind her. They weren't just soldiers. They were people with dreams, families, futures. She would not let them die for nothing. They reached the outer wall of the base. Lasers scanned the snow. But the humans were covered in heat-blocking cloth. They were invisible to the machines, until the first shot was fired. Boom! The wall exploded. Zarkon guards rushed out, but it was too late. Elena's team entered from below using old mining tunnels. They split into two teams. Team A planted explosives. Team B, with Elena, went for the core. Inside the base, red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Zarkon soldiers shouted orders, firing at shadows. But the humans were fast, silent, deadly. Elena reached the command room. It was huge, full of glowing alien tech. At the center, the control core. She placed a bomb on it, then paused. She pressed her communicator. Mission complete, pull back. But Malik's voice came through. Too many hostiles. You go. I'll hold them off. She froze. No, we all go. It's okay, Captain. Someone has to stay. Let it be me. She heard gunfire through the radio. Then silence. Elena closed her eyes. Another name to remember. Another price paid. She hit the button. Boom. The core exploded. Across the planet, Zarkon ground troops suddenly stopped moving. Their orders had stopped. They were confused, disconnected, and Earth saw it. From New Delhi to Detroit, human fighters attacked. Trapped alien units were destroyed. Humans took back cities. For the first time since the war began, the tide turned. Up in space, Valek stared at the frozen screen. No command signal. He knew what that meant. The humans had done the impossible. He growled in rage. Send everything, now! Wipe them out! But Earth was ready. Elena returned to her base with only 5 survivors. Her face was tired. Her body was hurt. But she walked tall. People came out of shelters to see her. They clapped. They cheered. They cried. Because they knew. That was the turning point. The world was still in pain. But now hope was louder than fear, and up in the dark sky, the final battle was coming. The storm above. The skies were no longer silent. The stars, once peaceful, were now full of war. The final part of the battle had started, and this time, it was in space. After the destruction of the Arctic Command Hub, Zarkon ground forces on Earth were broken. But the war was not over. The biggest danger still waited above the planet. The dread sun. The Zarkon's largest warship, a monster in the sky, 30 times bigger than a city, holding the last true power of the alien army. On Earth, Captain Elena Ward stood in front of a new team. She had lost many friends, many fighters, but she was not done. Not yet. Behind her stood engineers, pilots, scientists, and soldiers. We won the ground, she said. Now we take the stars. The plan was bold. Use old human space shuttles, modified with alien parts from crashed ships. Take a small team up to the dread sun. Get inside. Destroy it from the core. Simple plan. Deadly mission. One of the scientists, Dr. Kenji, showed the ship's diagram. The dread sun has a weakness, he said. A fusion core at its heart. Overload it and the whole ship will fall. Elena nodded. Then that's our target. The human fleet launched at midnight. The rockets rose from the ocean. 6 ships, only 6, against one massive alien fortress. The world watched in silence. No one knew if they would return, but every human hoped. Inside her ship, Elena looked at a small photo, her team from the first day of the war. Many of them were gone, but she was still here, and she would finish what they started. In orbit, the dread sun saw the human ships coming. Zarkon Commander Valek stood on the Bautis bridge. Fools, he hissed. They bring knives to a storm. He gave the order. All weapons. Fire. Red beams flew across space. 2 human ships exploded, but the others kept going. They dodged. They spun. They burned through the sky like fireflies. And then, they reached the dread sun. Elena's ship crashed into the outer wall. The hull broke open. Her team jumped into the alien halls, guns ready, hearts racing, no turning back. The inside of the ship was dark and huge. Blue lights glowed. Cold air filled the halls. Alien guards charged toward them, but the humans didn't stop. They fought with fire and fury. They moved like a wave, each room, each level, closer and closer to the core. Valak watched their progress. How? He growled. They are just humans. But he saw it in their eyes even on the screen. They were not afraid. They were not slowing down. They were coming straight for him. Elena's team reached the fusion core. It was huge, glowing white and blue. Dr. Kenji ran to the control panel. I need 90 seconds. He shouted. Elena and the others held the line. Gunfire lit up the room. Zarkon screamed. Humans pushed back. Blood. Sparks. Smoke. But they didn't move from their ground. Kenji finished the override. It's done. Core will overload in 2 minutes. Elena gave the call. Everyone out. Now! But the exit was blocked. Too many aliens. Too little time. Elena looked at the core, then looked at her people. She made her choice. I'll stay, she said. No, someone shouted, but she was already moving. She grabbed a rifle, turned back toward the hall. Go, live, finish the story. They ran. She stayed. Commander Valak arrived at the core. He saw Elena standing alone. Gun pointed at him. She looked tired, bloody, but her eyes still burned. You came far, he said. You lost, she replied. Then the core began to hum. Too late. Outside, the dread sun, human escape pods flew away. In seconds, the sky exploded. The dread sun lit up like a new sun in space. And then it was gone. Silent. Falling. Dead. Back on Earth, people looked up. The sky was clear. The stars were peaceful again, and they knew they had won. But they had also lost something great. Elena Ward became a legend, a name whispered in stories, a face remembered in dreams, a hero who gave everything so others could live. The storm above was over, but the fire of humanity still burned. What comes after? The war was over. The sky was quiet. The cities were broken, the land was wounded, but Earth was free. People came out from the underground shelters. They looked around, at the dust, the ruins, the silence. But in their eyes, there was light. Because they were alive. Because they had won. Because humans had done the impossible. In the remains of New York City, children played again, not with toys, but with hope. They ran through cracked streets, laughing, chasing each other. Above them, old buildings still stood, damaged, but strong, just like the people. A large gathering was held in the old stadium in Brazil. It was one of the few places still standing. Leaders from every human group came together. Soldiers, scientists, farmers, doctors, and the message was clear. We rebuild, together. General Okoye stood in front of the crowd. He had fought since day one. Now his voice was steady. Today we stop surviving, he said. Today we start living again. But rebuilding Earth wasn't easy. There were shortages of food, clean water, working machines. But humans shared. They helped each other. No more borders. No more nations. Just one people. Human. In a small room in Kenya, Dr. Kenji sat by a radio. He was tired, still healing. But he kept the signal open, a repeating message. To any survivors out there, and we hear you. You are not alone. One day the signal got an answer, not from Earth, but from the stars. A weak, shaking voice. This is Yalnath, of the Renari race. Thou are not Zarkon, we need help. Everyone froze. Another alien voice. Asking for help? The message continued. Zarkon killed our home. We escaped. Now, we are dying. Please, humans, help us. Some people were afraid. Another trap, they said. But others remembered Elena Ward. She had died not just to save Earth, but to save the future. General Okoye asked the people, "What do we do?" The answer was clear. We send a ship. For the first time in history, humans left Earth not for war, but for peace. The new ship was called the Flame, in honor of Elena. Dr. Kenji led the crew, pilots, medics, engineers, not to conquer, but to connect. When the Flame reached the broken Renari ship, the humans stepped out first. They offered food, medicine, safety. The Renari, weak and shaking, bowed. "You are not what the Zarkan told us." Kenji smiled. "No, we are human." Word spread fast. Across the stars, more alien races heard of Earth's victory and of the kindness humans showed after the war. The galaxy had thought humans were weak, too emotional, too soft. But they had learned something else. Humans were dangerous when pushed, but powerful when united, and above all, they didn't forget mercy. In orbit, a new human space station was built. Not for defense, but for learning. Aliens came to study Earth. Green humans learned alien languages. Together, they started building a new future. The stars no longer felt empty. They felt full of possibilities. One night on Earth, a child asked his grandfather, "Did we win the war because we were strong?" And Old Man smiled. "No," he said. "We won because we remembered who we are." The war had ended, but a new story was just beginning. A message to the galaxy the stars were watching. Planets far away had heard the whispers. Earth survived the Zarkan. Humans defeated the strongest army in the galaxy. They didn't run, they didn't break. In the dark corners of space, other species listened closely. Some were afraid, some were curious, some were planning to test Earth next. The leaders of Earth knew this, and they decided it was time to speak. Not in fear, not in warning, but with truth. Inside the new space station, Unity 1, humans and aliens gathered. It was the first Galactic Peace Conference. Cameras floated in the air, screens connected to hundreds of worlds. Everyone waited to hear what humans would say. Dr. Kenji, now Earth's ambassador, stood at the center. He looked calm. Behind him was a giant screen. It showed images. Earth before the war. Cities burning. Brave soldiers. Elena Ward's face. Then, the Earth rising again. Kenji began, "We are human. We came from a small blue planet. You called us weak, wild, unimportant." He looked into the camera. "You were wrong." He stepped aside, and a new video played. A voice spoke. It was Elena Ward's voice, recorded before her final mission. "If you are hearing this, we have survived. We are not perfect, we feel pain, we cry, we fall. But when pushed, we rise." Images of the war appeared. Humans fighting back, helping each other, protecting children, building again. "You tried to crush us," her voice continued, "but we don't break. We remember, we adapt, we fight, and we protect our own." Then the screen went black. One line appeared. "This is Earth. We are still here." Silence filled the station. Even the aliens didn't speak. Then, slow, clapping. Then louder. Then cheers. Across the galaxy, millions saw the message. And they understood. Earth was not just another world. Humans were not just another species. On a faraway planet, a young alien turned to his father. "Will they attack us?" The father shook his head. "No," he said. "Not if we respect them." Back on Earth, the people continued rebuilding. But now, they had friends. The Renari helped with clean energy. The Valari shared healing tech. Earth became a center of peace, not war. Still in secret, Earth built new ships, not to invade, but to defend. They had learned one thing: hope for peace. Prepare for storms. And high above Earth, a statue of Elena Ward stood on Unity 1. Her eyes pointed toward the stars, her name carved into the base. She burned so others could shine. The message had been sent, not in anger, but in strength, and the galaxy remembered it. Forever.